So in this video, I wanted to go over the cash flow numbers on the third rental property I've gotten this year. So I'm just going to get started right here. So the asking price was $240. I ended up offering $245, which is what the competition offered. I ended up winning it because I was more flexible on the closing time. I could close much faster. I had to pay a little more for the appraisal. It was about $1,000. So it was twice as much as normal. So the down payment was 20%. Unfortunately, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac had different loan requirements at this point in the year 2021, where they required 20% down. Basically, the loans got more expensive since the government limited their number that they could buy of investment loans to 7%. So they either charged more fees or more down, since investors didn't like the extra risk from that. So 20% down right here. Closing costs came to $8,000. Rehab about $10,200. And so total cash invested is both of those combined with the down payment. So the loan ended up at $196. I was able to get the rate down to 3 3/8 buying points, and it was just a 30-year conventional loan. So the total invested at closing was the fees, not including prepaids like insurance or taxes, and then the inspection fee, so about $57,500. And the work needed, it needed a lot of work on the outside. So the fascia needed to be replaced around the whole house. It was completely rotten, so I replaced it with some PVC and then put new gutters all the way around as well to protect the foundation from shifting. Paint and sealing around the whole exterior, and on the inside I ended up replacing the flooring. I ripped out the carpet and I paid for a carpet to be ripped out, but I installed the flooring myself. So it was mostly materials cost, but it still was about $10,200. And then about over $1,000, about $1,200 in extra tools I had to buy to be able to get the rehab done myself. So anyways, that's the total invested right now is about $67,200. So with that rate and loan amount, the payment comes down to $866. The taxes about $5,300 a year. Insurance about $1,450. This is pretty cheap. It wasn't bad. So the rents were a little lower than I projected originally. Once we actually listed it, we listed it slightly below market. It seems like because there's a lot of demand, way more applicants than I thought there would be. And so if I count for the cash flow numbers, I have rent and I have the TIA right here, and then the other expenses, of course, are repair, capex, property management, and vacancies. I assigned 5% to the repair and capex each, and then 10% to property management and then I just use a 10% value for the vacancy for future cash flow numbers in case it actually is vacant for about 6 weeks a year. Right now, that is definitely not the case. There's very high rent demand, so it was actually only listed for about 5 to 7 days, I'd say, and there was many qualified applicants in that time frame. I just picked the best one. So I ended up with 3 separate students to rent it out, and they had a pet, so that gives me an automatic $500 non-refundable deposit. So if I look at the cash flow numbers, the rent minus all the expenses is a negative value on paper. Of course, the capex is a phantom expenses, like average over the next year for replacing the roof, water heater, and major expenses like that, HVAC or foundation repairs. So this is all overestimating more than likely the expenses. So this is the worst case cash flow. So ROI, of course, is negative, and the IRR is also negative. So if I go to my numbers here, I see the projections for the next 30 years basically. So I have rent increasing by 2% a year. This is conservative in my area right now. The way it seems, it's increasing much higher than that, but just to be conservative, that's what I'm using. Here are my current taxes, insurance, and the repair, capex, PM, and vacancy right here. So I can project for my first year. These will be the expenses, and I get my actual cash flows, of course, at my full invested value. I go to, at the end of year 1, the rent will increase to about $22,000 a year. Taxes will also increase. I put a 3% increase. Insurance, I also put a increase. Let's see what it is, a 3%. And of course, these values are dependent on the rent, so they increase proportionally. But in that first year, I paid down the loan from the rent's paying down the part of the principal. So I have a little bit more equity based on the loan. So this is the down payment that I originally put down plus what I paid down in the first year. And then so I paid about $6,500 in interest, paid the loan down by about $3,800, but during that time the property has appreciated 10%. 10% is a conservative in this area right now as well. So it's increased to about 280,000. Also, one thing to point out, even though I bought it at 245, the after repair value, or ARV, was 255 because it did need a little work. There was wallpaper in some areas and very worn out carpet, so people did not want to pay the amount, but I bought it undervalued and did the work myself, so I got a deal on it. My equity as far as the market value at the end of year one is about 88,000. The projected cash flow, of course, is negative, like I showed before, so over the year it's about negative 1,900. If I include the depreciation for taxes, on paper for the IRS it's about negative 5,500. And as far as the net worth change, this is the principal pay down plus depreciation minus the negative cash flows. It comes out to, and also including the tax savings, so I'm saving the taxes off this phantom depreciation expense of say a tax rate of 22%. Basically my net worth increases by almost 30,000 in the first year from holding the property. So the ROI for the net worth is actually about almost 44%. At the end of the second year it's almost 100%, so I've already recouped my down payment from depreciation mainly, as well as the principal pay down by the end of the second year. So not a bad investment, even though on paper the cash flow is negative. My net worth is increasing. I can't realize this until I sell the property, but the effect is still there. So if I project this out, these are the average ROIs for all the previous years. So this is year 1 to about year 6. The average yearly ROI is this amount. So you could see the property value at the end of 30 years will be very high, assuming 10% per year appreciation here. And it actually finally does break positive cash flow number about almost year 20. So these are the numbers for this property, basically the same as the others I bought this year. On paper the cash flow is always negative, but if you include appreciation as well as the tax savings from depreciation, the effect is very positive to the net worth. So all in all, I do not regret buying this, even though it was way more work. It ended up being about 180 hours of rehab work for this house. This is far more than I thought I'd have to do. I knew it had to replace flooring and water heater, but there was a bunch of miscellaneous stuff on the inside that I didn't account for. But still, I don't regret buying it, and I'm glad with the tenants I was able to get. This is a very desirable area, and there was a large number of applicants, and they were mostly qualified, far more than other areas that I have houses where there might be a lot of applicants, but they are not all qualified. So these are the cash flow numbers, and I also did another video showing the full work that I did. So that wraps up this video. Thanks for watching.